Hi, my junk journaling friends. This is Lauren with Shabby Chic Sunday, and today I'm going to show you my latest journal, which is Hansel and Gretel Dark Mysterious Forest Theme. So for the cover, it might be hard to tell, but this is actually a 3D witch's cottage, and I have not physically assembled it onto the book yet. Just to make it easier to flip through and film the journal, and then also when I mail this out. But I have this awesome witch's cottage here, and she is gonna just adhere right to the cover down here when I'm ready. And then next to the witch's cottage is a little chair for her to sit in. I have a Tim Holtz mushroom here. She is just tied right now because she is just absolutely bursting at the seams. And so I thought the ribbon would help to keep everything together. So here's the spine. And I just used a bunch of leaves that I sprayed with different dyes, and then I covered everything with this moss. And then this back here is just cardstock, brown cardstock that I embossed to make it look like a tree. Here's what it looks like from the top. So she's 4 signatures. She's ginormous. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the front. So with the tie, this is going to be tied at the end of the bow, just kind of hanging off the side. I have a basket with some dried flowers from outside of my house here in Michigan. And I thought this would be like the witch's basket of herbs that she was maybe out collecting. Okay, so here we go. So the very first page, I have a little forest fairy in the top left corner, and then I just, again, picked some leaves from my own house around outside, and I Mod Podged them on there. I just have this collage here of different mushrooms and leaves and a little fairy sitting here, and then this was the inspiration for this journal. This is a little definition: hinterland, an area lying between what is visible or known. Sorry, beyond what is visible or known. Another definition here with a little charm of an acorn dangling down. So for this journal, I really wanted it to be a cohesive mixture of the Hansel and Gretel story and then the details of a dark and mysterious and creepy yet beautiful forest that is the setting for the story. I made a little fairy envelope. This is using a real leaf from my yard, and then I just added some pixie dust to it because I wanted this to be like a little letter for or from a fairy. And then when you open it up inside, there's a little note and it says beneath the trees. So I have that just on a paper clip here, and it's right by this fairy door. So this flips open and there's a little gnome inside. And then the door itself has this little tuck spot here and says never stop exploring. And then underneath the fairy door, like the tree itself, is a little bookmark and it says life was meant for great adventure. And this is again just that embossing folder to make it look like tree bark. And here's page 1 of our story. So Hansel and Gretel by Brothers Grimm, 1889. And my idea was that this could be from the witch's perspective. So what would she have to say about her life deep in the forest and her stories that she would have to tell? So obviously in the forest, she is a collector of many, many things that live in the forest. So here's a little specimen slide, and then I just have some dandelion seeds, and it says a wish. So I thought maybe something to go along with fairies, collecting those seeds. And then I just typed up the story by Brothers Grimm, and I printed it out on tea-dyed paper, and I inked it all. And so the story goes in order, and then the cards and the ephemera all match it. I have a little coin here because the story starts off saying how the parents are super poor and they can't afford to feed all of the mouths in their family, and so they want to get rid of their children. So I have a little coin there. Little gnome guy, some butterflies hidden around him. The story continues. I put a little slingshot with pebbles because part of the story with Hansel is that he drops little pebbles along the way to remember how to get back home. A little removable journaling card. It tucks right back in here. On the side then I just have a little dangle and a moon. And I put the moon there because this is the part of the story when they go out and they hear their parents talking about how they're going to send them out into the forest. There's another little fairy here, and I just embossed her with some gold glitter, and then I made another little envelope out of a leaf, and I covered it in Mod Podge so that I could try to protect it and make it last as long as possible. So it lifts up, and then there's another note inside from another fairy. So that just tucks behind her there as if she's carrying it with her. Here's a awesome picture of a witch. More leaves that I've Mod Podged here. And then this definition says a female hunter, a huntress. And then I put a little witch's charm there to go with that page. I put a picture of these little black cats because this is the part of the story when Hansel and Gretel are leaving their house and the mom asks what they're looking at. And Hansel replies that he's looking back at his black kitty. Okay, so that flips open then. There's another journaling card here that continues to tell the story. And then I have this little guy here that I've just glued in. And, okay, I'll tuck that later. Little forest fairy, another definition at the top of the page. This flips open here. So, the other thing that I did was I wrote 6 or 7 journal entries as if they were told from the perspective of the witch. Like she was writing a diary, and one of her diary entries, which is tucked inside of here, states how people in the town are posting wanted flyers for her, and they're trying to find her. They know that a witch is among them. And so she was writing in her journal entry about one of the flyers. And then I let these sit in coffee for a very, very long time. I think about a week. They came out so, so good, nice and dark. And so I made a couple other wanted witch flyers that the townspeople were posting around the village. This fairy door opens, and there's a little fairy inside. And, oh yeah, this one is glued to her, but this envelope does open, and it's another leaf message that I made. A little gnome is hanging out in there with her, and then there was also a key to the door right here. And then on this page here, the story continues. I just have a wax seal here of mushrooms. There's a little bookmark here of some mushrooms, and then this page flips down. And there's a fairy sitting on some mushrooms, a little journaling card, and then the story continues underneath. So it is the full story of Hansel and Gretel throughout the entire journal about this magical forest. Okay, on this page then, 2 journaling cards. I have lots of these pictures of bread and treats and desserts, because obviously we know that the witch is doing lots of baking and cooking in her forest. This is just a little tuck spot here, so I put, like, maybe this is the old witch. Just a little butterfly, a little fairy here on top of the mushrooms, and then that is what I envisioned her cottage to look like. Okay, little dingle here, another definition about the forest. Here is our next specimen card that the witch has collected. It's a butterfly, and a little journaling card here, continuing on with the story on the back. So that tucks right in here. And then this is the start of the second signature. So I just have a little butterfly charm here, butterfly down here. This flips open. And then this is all just representing that magical forest, the magical wonderland here, and all the things that it entails. So here's a little removable card. Okay, so this flips over. And this page, I have a little fairy charm, some fairy dust, another fairy door. I just cut out all these leaves and I stained them to try to get them to be the right color that I needed. This flips open here. There's another little fairy inside, a little frog with some wings. So a magical little door. And then this is a little belly band with a journaling card. And I won't pull them all out, but there's some entries of the witch that are tucked in between each page for the pockets. Okay, this is part of the story where when they had tried to leave for the second time, when the parents tried to take them into the forest to be rid of them, they had left breadcrumbs while they were out journeying to try to remember to get their way back. And the birds, unfortunately, ate all of their breadcrumbs. So I put a little feather in here to symbolize the birds eating all their breadcrumbs that they had left. And that is why they did not know how to get back home. And instead, they journeyed farther into the forest and all of its magical wonders in order to search for how to get back home. And we know that is how they then find, eventually, the cottage where the witch lives. Little mushroom charm. This little guy is a tuck spot, and there's some fun little cards in there. This is just a journaling card, and I have a little guy right here. Fairy on some kind of bug. A lot of mushrooms. Little fairy here. Little creature here. So these are representing how the kids are getting farther and farther into the forest. This butterfly is just a tuck spot. So there's a little butterfly dangle here. They're getting farther and farther into the magical worlds. And they're going to come across her cottage. So I used that again. This flips open like this. And this is the part of the story where the kids come across her cottage. And they describe in the story how it was filled with treats. So I made this little die cut here of a candy. I made a little journaling card. And that tucks right in between that part of the story. This page folds down. And there's a journaling card here. And then, let me see if I can move this up. Underneath here, there's just a journaling card. And another journaling card here. So this goes like this like this. So since we're at the part where they find the cottage, I made this little gingerbread house, and I had to include obviously 2 little gingerbread people right here that come out, and then there's some images of Hansel and Gretel finding the house and the story, and how it describes how the house was made of candy and white sugar and how they were eating it. So then the start of the third signature is while they're eating the house, the witch comes to the door to welcome them. So that sticks up in there like a belly band. Here's the story of the witch arriving. So I put a little witch's broom here because it says she walks out with a cane. So I thought maybe the broom could symbolize that. I made some of these cakes and treats, and I did everything in brown and black because obviously it's supposed to look enticing and delicious, but it is very eerie and creepy because here's a witch in the middle of the forest. This is part of the story again, and a journaling card here pulls out of there. This is just another diary entry about how the children arrived and what the witch thought of that. And I just made that up entirely thinking, you know, what would that be like to have 2 strangers come knock on your door? You don't get very many visitors living in the middle of the forest. You know, what would you think when you just hear a knock at your door? as you sit down to dinner one night. Made a little shaker die, little candy shaker dies, journaling card here, there's a loaf of bread, and then this little candy charms here, little lock and key, and these images I picked now kind of represented the witch. So we are out of the forest for right now, and we are in the witch's home. So there's lots of baked goodies. Our story continues about what they're doing with the witch while Hansel and Gretel are staying there. This page here, this is our third specimen card that the witch has been collecting from her journey in the forest, her travels in the forest, because she obviously loves nature. This flips out here. I put a little tea bag here. It says poison, and then there's a journaling card behind it with some recipes for tea. And then I have a tea charm that hangs off the side. Little dangle there. This is the inside of the third signature. I have another shaker here of a pie and another cake, yummy dessert, and then the image that I matched for the story. This is when the witch keeps checking to see if Hansel is fat enough to eat yet. So again, kind of creepy, because we know that all these decadent desserts are made supposedly from the children. Some hot glue. Okay. Witch's cauldron. Story continues. This is when the witch asks Gretel to go and get some boiling water in the cauldron to cook her brother. Here's a little wax seal of a pie. It's the witch when the children finally find out what is going to happen to them. And it's a tuck spot here. This says the moon made me do it. It's a removable tag here in the pocket. And then the part of the story that we are at now is when the witch tells Gretel to get in the oven. And she says, well, how do I do that? Can you show me? Smart little girl. Okay, so this is the start of the last signature. Again, I just have a little wish here. What is this? Yeah, it just says believe, and a fairy, and a witch. And this cauldron here opens up this way. There's some old books here. And inside of the pocket, I have another shaker of candy. Some witches' spells are back there. Another part of the story. And again, we're still in the witch's cottage. So I've got all these spell jars here. And those are just stamps. And then I typed out what types of labels I think would be appropriate for those bottles. Some journaling cards. And then to go with this page, let me see if I can find it. I made in this bag, just like I did for Agatha's witchcraft school spell book that I had made, I made some of the bottles that would go along with it. So I have ink, I have a skull, obviously, hemlock, sage, belladonna, and I just filled them with herbs from my kitchen. And let's see, what else does the witch have? She has a jar of lavender. She has a jar of bones. And then wolfsbane and rosemary. So I just typed up those little labels. I did make sure that I glued them shut so nothing would leak or fall through in the bag. And then those will just be inside of that little tea bag off to the side. Okay. I did like a little witch's cauldron here with some leaves. Kind of reminded me like fire in a way below the cauldron, even though it was leaves. And then I made this little shaker die of a witch's cauldron. And there's a little hand, bone of a hand hanging off the side. And on this page then, this is just a little tuck spot. Another journaling card. And there's some more decadent desserts on the other side telling the story. Little dangle here with a key. Butterfly charm here. This flips open. Tells the story. Another little fun creature. Here's the witch, who I believe we are at the part of the story who is no longer now. Another removable journaling card. And then the final specimen card I think is my favorite. I found these little seedlings, you know, from trees that fall all the time in the beginning of the summer, and they're all over the yard. So I collected a handful of them, and I picked 2 to fit this specimen card, and then I just covered them in some pink fairy dust, and then I labeled these as wings. So this is to represent fairy wings, and the witch has put that into her specimen card for further analysis later. And then on this page right here, I have a bone, and here is her little wooden spoon for stirring her cauldron. And then I made this little shaker, thinking again maybe this could be like a little jar where she's collected some butterflies from the magical forest. And then I have obviously her silverware for eating. So all of those will just tuck into this back pocket here. Pictures of the forest. Okay, so that will lay like here. Oh, this had fallen out. This is just a little scroll that I had made with some remnants from the tea-dyed paper that I used, and then 2 twigs, and I thought maybe this could be like a fairy scroll. So I haven't written a message in it yet, but I will. This could be like a little scroll for the fairies from the magical forest. Okay, so then the last thing that I have to show you today, which will fit right into the book, would be the witch's personal scrapbook or her recipe book. So this will fit, like I said, right into one of the signatures, and I wanted it to look like she was doodling in the book. So I've got like a pressed leaf here, and then all these stamps, and again I wanted it to look like she was drawing pictures of what she was seeing in nature and maybe scribbling on it. And this is her recipe book, and then these are actual recipes that you could follow. This one's Mama's homemade blueberry pie with an image, and as you flip through, there's lots and lots of recipes, and so they just fold open like this, and you can actually follow the recipes that are on here. There's another picture maybe of her doodling what this moth would look like that she saw in the forest, some drips from her inkwell. Here's another pie, Mama's raspberry pie. And so I thought these could be all recipes that have been passed down from generation to generation, from her great-grandmother, her grandmother, her mother, homemade artesian bread recipe, some other bread recipes. And I wanted it to be falling apart because I wanted this to be passed down like an heirloom to all the other witches in the family. And then she's also taking, you know, drawings. She's making drawings of the children who are visiting her throughout the years. And so I named the kids, and I put maybe what year they had visited her. And so it's her recipe book, but it's also her scrapbook. It says Sarah 1323. And I think that that is pretty much it. So this is like her little scrapbook. More pressed leaves, more doodles. And then in there will be the wanted posters that the witch has collected from throughout the town, and then the missing children. So I made kind of like these were drawings of the children who have gone missing in the town, and they're posted up maybe in the, you know, village walls of the taverns and places like that. And so the witch is collecting all of these to try to keep her secrets hidden in the magical forest. So thank you so much everyone for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day.